History is often written by the victors, and for the Sorbs, a small Slavic ethnic group in Germany, their story has been one of resilience in the face of erasure. Over centuries, the Sorbs have withstood relentless efforts to suppress their language, culture, and identity, leaving their survival today nothing short of remarkable. The roots of this suppression can be traced back to the 12th century during the Ostsiedlung, a period of eastward expansion by German settlers. Invited by German rulers, these settlers displaced many Sorbian communities, seizing land and marginalizing the native population. The local Sorbian nobility was replaced, and German rapidly became the dominant language, pushing Sorbian culture into the shadows. Religious oppression further deepened their plight. With the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century, Sorbian Catholic traditions were undermined, cutting them off from their Slavic neighbours like the Poles and Czechs. The split between Catholic and Lutheran practices weakened their cohesion, leaving the Sorbs increasingly isolated within German territories. The Nazi era brought the fiercest assault on their existence. The regime viewed the Sorbs as an obstacle to their vision of a unified German identity. Sorbian schools were closed, cultural institutions dismantled, and Sorbian books burned. Leading figures within the community were arrested, imprisoned, or executed, and public use of the Sorbian language was banned. Even post-World War II, East Germany's recognition of Sorbs as a minority brought little relief. Despite promises of linguistic and cultural restoration, assimilation pressures persisted. By the late 20th century, many young Sorbs were monolingual in German, their ancestral tongue disappearing with each generation. Today, fewer than 60,000 Sorbs remain, and of them, only around 20,000 are fluent in the Sorbian language. Assimilation into German society, intermarriage, and urban migration continue to erode this unique identity. The Sorb struggle is a testament to the fragility of cultural survival when met with systematic suppression and indifference. However, even in the darkest of times, there are individuals who refuse to let the light of their people fade. One such beacon of hope was Jan Arnost Smoler, a man who stood against the tide of assimilation and fought tirelessly to keep the Sorbian language and culture alive. He was more than just a scholar, he was a lifeline for a people on the brink of cultural extinction. Born in 1816 in Saxony, Smoler grew up bilingual, speaking both Sorbian and German. But from a young age, he saw how his fellow Sorbs were treated as second-class citizens, their language fading from public spaces and their traditions overshadowed by German dominance. For Smoler, this wasn't just a loss, it was an existential crisis for his people. When he entered the University of Breslau, Smoler encountered other Slavic intellectuals who fueled his passion for cultural preservation. By the 1840s, he had become a driving force behind the Sorbian national revival. He founded Sorbian newspapers and began publishing books in the Sorbian language, ensuring a written record for what was once an oral tradition. Particularly significant was his collection of Sorbian folk songs, poems, and fairy tales, an effort not only to preserve but to celebrate what others sought to erase. Smoler also developed the first standardized grammar of Sorbian, giving the language structure and credibility amid German linguistic dominance. His work extended beyond cultural preservation. Smoler was an activist who tirelessly petitioned German authorities for Sorbian language rights. His newspaper, Serbske noviny, became a rallying point for resistance against forced assimilation, sparking a movement that faced constant backlash. The German authorities saw Smoler's efforts as subversive, but he remained determined, helping to establish schools and cultural organizations that kept Sorbian identity alive. Smoler's contributions didn't end with his death in 1884. His dictionaries and literary collections continue to be vital resources for scholars and activists. Speaking of the Sorbs' cultural roots, they are deeply intertwined with those of other West Slavic peoples, including Poles, Czechs, and Slovaks. Yet their story diverged as their ancestors settled in the Lusatia region, weaving a unique tapestry of traditions and beliefs under the shadow of German expansion. Over time, two distinct groups emerged, divided by dialect and religion. Upper Sorbs in Saxony speak a variant of Sorbian closer to Czech and have historically adhered to Catholicism. Lower Sorbs in Brandenburg, shaped by proximity to Protestant reformers, speak a form of Sorbian more aligned with Polish. This dual heritage, linguistic and religious, has provided richness to Sorbian culture, but also a vulnerability. Despite centuries of coexistence with Germanic populations, the Sorbs remain genetically distinct, offering remarkable insights into the legacy of early Slavic migrations and cultural resilience. Studies of mitochondrial DNA, which traces maternal ancestry, reveal that the Sorbs share significant mtDNA haplogroups, such as H, U, and K, commonly found in both Slavic and Germanic populations. However, unique mtDNA markers indicate that the Sorbs have experienced less genetic drift than their German neighbours, showcasing a degree of isolation over time. This is particularly striking given their geographic location within a predominantly German-speaking region. On the paternal side, Y-DNA studies provide strong evidence of the Sorbs' Slavic heritage. The group displays a high frequency of the R1a haplogroup, a key genetic signature of Slavic populations, prevalent among Poles, Czechs, and other West Slavs. Another noteworthy paternal marker is I2, typically associated with South Slavic groups, underscoring the diversity and historical connections within the Slavic world. These Y-DNA findings highlight the Sorbs' deep genetic ties to their Slavic ancestors, distancing them from the surrounding ethnic German populations despite centuries of close proximity. Autosomal DNA analysis, which examines inherited genetic material from both parents, cements the Sorbs' closeness to modern Poles and Czechs. While there is some evidence of minor Germanic admixture, a natural outcome of cohabitation over centuries, it remains remarkably limited. The genetic distinction of the Sorbs has persisted through time, a testament to their cultural and social cohesion. This genetic isolation is particularly significant. Unlike other European minority groups, the Sorbs avoided extensive population blending, retaining characteristics of their original Slavic gene pool. This uniqueness makes them an invaluable population for genetic studies, helping scientists trace historic migrations and demographic shifts in Europe. The Sorbs stand as living proof of Slavic expansion in the early medieval period. History is etched in the movement of peoples, and the Sorbs stand as a testament to the sweeping migrations that reshaped Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire. Emerging from the mass westward migration of Slavic tribes in the 6th and 7th centuries, the ancestors of the Sorbs settled in the Lusatia region, near the Elbe and Spree rivers. The migration period was a frenetic time of change, with power vacuums left by retreating Roman forces and migratory pressures from eastward tribes. The Sorbs found fertile lands and defensible positions in Central Europe. They built strategic hill forts and small enclaves, forming the early frameworks of Sorbian principalities. By the 9th century, the encroachment of Germanic forces under the Holy Roman Empire began to erode this early independence. The Sorbs, like many other Slavic tribes, faced aggressive campaigns from German rulers intent on expansion. Through battles, conversions, and systemic assimilation efforts, much of their autonomy was lost. Sorbian nobility was dismantled, their traditions marginalized, and German settlers gradually outnumbered them. Still, the Sorbian language, a priceless relic of Slavic heritage, survived. Spoken primarily in the Lusatia region of eastern Germany, this minority language is a living link to centuries of history and culture. Sorbian splits into two main dialects, Upper Sorbian and Lower Sorbian. Upper Sorbian is predominantly spoken in Saxony around Bautzen, while Lower Sorbian finds its home in Brandenburg near Cottbus. The two dialects are distinct enough to be considered separate languages, although both belong to the West Slavic branch, making them closely related to Polish and Czech. Upper Sorbian has traditionally been viewed as the more vigorous of the two, benefiting from a strong literary tradition and a robust speaker base. Lower Sorbian, conversely, has struggled more significantly as its speaker community has dwindled over time. Historically, Sorbian was widely spoken across Lusatia, with local elites actively promoting its use during the Sorbian national revival in the 19th century. However, waves of Germanization, particularly during the 19th and 20th centuries, curbed its influence. Today, Sorbian exists as a recognized minority language in Germany, protected under both national and international law. The number of fluent speakers is decreasing, especially among the youth, due to assimilation and reduced intergenerational transmission. However, passion for the language endures, fueled by a profound sense of identity among the Sorbs and their supporters. The Sorbs of Germany have preserved several traditional horse sports that are still practiced today. One of the most notable is Lapanje Kokota, also known as rooster plucking. This ancient ritual involves young men on horseback galloping at high speed towards a wooden gallows to pluck a rooster that has been freshly prepared for the event. As they pass under the gallows, the riders attempt to remove the rooster's head while maintaining balance in their stirrups. The event is typically performed in summer and draws large crowds of spectators. Another horse sport practiced by the Sorbs is striking rooster effigy while on horseback. Stubble riding is also mentioned as a traditional equestrian activity. though details of this particular custom are unclear. These horse sports serve as a way for the Sorb community to maintain connections to their agricultural heritage and demonstrate horsemanship skills. Talking about Sorbian art, traditional Sorbian female costumes are intricate and rich in symbolism. The headdress, known as lapa or hauba, is a distinctive element made from a large embroidered silk scarf, carefully folded to form a hat-like shape. Yellow is a common colour for this headdress, symbolising the sun, warmth, and harmony. The skirt is another key component, typically made of heavy velvet with large folds. Its colour holds significance, with red worn by unmarried women to represent youth and love, green worn by married women to signify honour and fertility, and black reserved for church and religious occasions. The apron, which covers the front of the skirt, features embroidery or crocheted lace decorations. A velvet waistcoat is worn over the outfit, complemented by a pastel-coloured shawl embroidered with floral motifs. The intricate nature of the costume, with its multiple components and colour symbolism, reflects the rich cultural heritage of the Sorbian people. In Lusatia, centuries-old Sorbian traditions continue. Among the many customs, two stand out as both visually stunning and deeply symbolic: Easter egg painting, known as Wendish eggs, and harvest festivals. These traditions not only reflect the Sorbs' rich heritage, but also connect modern celebrations to ancient rites of nature and spirituality. The symbols on these eggs are as meaningful as they are beautiful, with patterns representing fertility, renewal, and protection. Passed down through generations, this craft is more than just a seasonal ritual. It's a cherished medium of storytelling. Workshops held in Lusatia today teach younger generations the art of egg painting, preserving this delicate tradition while spreading its spiritual message of rebirth and peace. Harvest festivals, another hallmark of Sorbian culture, are laden with communal spirit and mythology. Rooted in ancient Slavic beliefs, these festivals celebrate the close relationship between the community, the earth, and their spiritual guardians. Traditional garb is donned, regional songs are sung, and folk dances are performed. A highlight of the festivities is the creation of intricate corn wreaths, symbolizing gratitude for a plentiful harvest. The symbolic nature of eggs, wreaths, and dances connects the Sorbs to Pan-Slavic mythology, such as reverence for nature spirits and the cycles of the seasons. Earlier political and educational policies marginalized Sorbian culture, treating it as inferior. Efforts during this time convinced many Sorbs to abandon their heritage, and Lusatia experienced a sharp decline in the use of Sorbian. For centuries, Sorbs primarily lived in rural Lusatian villages, where their traditions and language were preserved across generations. However, modern economic realities have driven many young Sorbs to urban centres in pursuit of education and employment opportunities. Cities, with their predominantly German-speaking environments, have led to a gradual disconnect from Sorbian culture. Intermarriage is another critical factor in this demographic shift. Marriages between Sorbs and non-Sorbian Germans have steadily increased over the decades. While such unions can enrich cultural exchange, they often result in a loss of Sorbian identity for future generations. Children from mixed families are less likely to be fluent in Sorbian or to adopt its traditions, further weakening the continuity of Sorbian culture. Past discrimination against the Sorbs has left an enduring mark on their collective identity. Centuries of Germanization, assimilation policies, and outright persecution, particularly during the Nazi era, have caused many families to suppress or even deny their heritage. Some Sorbs, wary of stigmatization, have chosen to blend in rather than openly identify with their ancestry. The decline of the Sorbian population is not merely a numerical concern, it is a cultural and emotional challenge for the community. Every lost Sorbian voice represents an erasure of language, traditions, and history. The dwindling numbers underscore the urgent need for revitalization efforts, from promoting bilingual education to fostering pride in Sorbian heritage. Without active measures, the Sorbs risk becoming a vanished people, taking with them an irreplaceable piece of Europe's cultural mosaic.